was a child model. I was with an agency in London, and I also was at a dancing school, in our local sort of dancing school. And the woman that ran that asked for everyone to go up for auditions. She sent everybody up for auditions for an advert. And I think it was a Branston Pickle advert at the time, and things rolled on from that with my modelling agency, and I found myself in the auditions for Melody, which was David Puttnam's first film, and they were looking for a lead in Melody, which I eventually got. So that was my first job when I was 11 years old. Each girl was interviewed, and we went into a small room, and there was a table of 6, which would have been Warris, Andrew Birkin, who was second unit director, and I think had something to do with writing it. I think Alan Parker was there, David Puttnam was definitely there, a couple of other people around a big round table, and Mark Lester, and who was very big at the time because he was in Oliver. And I walked in, 10, not from stage school, not from anything. They said, hello, hello, and do you know who this is? And I went, no. And then Mark went, I think I'll go to the toilet now. And they all laughed about that. They quite liked that. Whether that got me the part or not, I don't know. So I had no clue what I was doing. I just went in and said the words and just tried to be Melody, really. I'm very lucky that I had such a lovely crew and helpful people around me.
Do you remember how did Warris work with you?
He's a very gentle man. Do you know Warris? Lovely, lovely man. Lovely, lovely man. It sounds like I say it about all my directors, but I've been very lucky with both of them. Very gentle man working with children. I mean, he got the best out of all of us. We were really well looked after. I had a teacher on set, I had a chaperone. Great, it's just like being with your friends. A lot of the really happy times, the sports field scene was lovely. When we went to Weymouth was great. Because we were down there for a couple of days, and I remember the chaperones all going off to play bingo and my mum having a great time, and it was just sort of being like on holiday with filming in between, you know. And it was 10 weeks and it takes over your life. I love Jack Wilde. I worshipped him. He was so funny. And I did another film with him again in Poland a few years later, called Alice, where I had a very small part, but was out there for a month because they were fairly disorganised, and he was Mock Turtle, and I think I was Alice's best friend or something in it, and we had a laugh a minute out there. So no, I love Jack Wilde. Both boys were, they're different characters, but both boys were lovely. The premiere was at the Rialto in Piccadilly Circus, and we had the party in the pub pub next to it, the London Inn or something like that. Ringo Starr was there. I was just like, wow. I remember Ringo Starr being there. Lots of different people, lots of people sort of from that period in the early 70s. So yeah, I was very, very lucky. Very, very lucky to have done a film like that.
It became absolutely huge in Japan.
Huge, huge in Japan, huge. And I was taken out there when I was about 13 because I ended up with a Japanese agent as well who wanted me to make a film at that point. But by the time we got there, we were doing a tour and everything. I was there for 6 weeks with my mum, and the finance didn't work with the film, so the film never got made. And then I went back out when I was about 17, and at that point I'd won Best Actress of the Year, even though it was sort of 6 or 7 years old. And Robert Redford won Best Actor, but he didn't turn up for his award, but I did. And that week was fabulous. Mark was out there at the same time. He had a team, and then I was out there with my team, who were great fun. And I saw most of Japan. They took me around all the temples, and so very privileged. Yeah, I had a fabulous time. I did some ITV work. I did, I think Anglia TV at the time, up until I was about 13 or 14. Then I was studying, as kids did at the time. It was O-levels. And then I did a little bit of travelling, which at the time wasn't Thailand, it was Benidorm. And great picking and that sort of thing. And then I came back and I got just trying to remember, I think it might have been after this film that I did a series for LWT, and I did a few bits of television work and another short film.
So do you remember how you came to be in Orchard End Murder? How did that sort of come about?
I don't have any specific memory, but I would imagine it's just I'd been asked to be seen and my agent sent me up for the audition, so I would have just auditioned for it in the normal way. I remember meeting Chris, and I remember he's a really lovely man, and he was very gently spoken and explained all the script and everything with me. don't have a lot of memory of reading the script, but I do have memories of it all being really happy shoot and us all going down to Kent together, and we all stayed in a big pub there, and it was nice. Yeah, when I went for the interview for the part, and we talked at length about the script, at that point Chris actually explained to me that the script that he had there was based on a real life murder that had happened, and so the fact that it was based on true life events was what made me more comfortable with actually doing the murder scene and the nude scene and everything in it, because without that it wasn't a correct portrayal of the events. So that was one of the reasons that I accepted that part, and also because I think when people are influenced by films, and maybe it just could serve as a warning to young girls of my age at that time. When the film was actually made and due for release, it was decided we wouldn't talk about the reasons for, talk about the fact that what it was based on, because of sensitivities of the events around about that time. So it wasn't something that we discussed in interviews.
Was Chris Marnham a nice director to work for? Did he make you feel comfortable?
He's an absolutely wonderful director to work for. He's very softly spoken. He's a really kind man. He explains everything. He's just a lovely man to work for. He keeps everybody calm. He's just a really, really nice man to work for.
Yeah, it's funny, speaking to the few people I've been able to speak to involved in the film, they speak of it as being quite a harmonious set and a fun shoot.
Yes, it was, yeah. And that obviously comes from the director down, doesn't it? So yes, it was lovely. And I think Chilham, I think I might be right in saying, is where he either lived at the time or he comes from, so he was very comfortable with the surroundings there as well. It's a completely idyllic setting. Yes, it was beautiful. And especially, I mean, how long ago was this? 37 years, we were saying earlier. So even back in those days, not changed very much at all.
Tracy, do you remember the dress you were wearing?
I do. It was a black and white dress. They decided on the look before we did the film. And so they take me to a hairdresser's in St Christopher's Place where they designed the bob and dyed it black. So I wasn't that dark before I started to do the film. That was the look that Chris was going for. And then they designed a dress, a black and white dress. It was just quite a very simple at lay line mini dress, sort of Mary Quant style. And then they had a special one made up for when we did the apple scene that could come off from, because he rips the dress off so that it would come off easily. And that was all done with some sort of Velcro or something down the back so that that would come off. I remember working with Clive Mantle, yes, and working with him, it was quite obvious that he was going to go on and work a lot, and you just get the feeling when you're on set with somebody that they're made for greater things, and he quite clearly is. So,
and then there's the railway,
yes, Bill. Yes, Bill. He was great. He was really good fun. Very dry sense of humour. I remember everyone was quite intense that day, and I think people were very quiet afterwards. I don't think they realised it to be quite so. I don't even think we knew exactly what we were going to do. Chris gave us an idea of what he wanted, and then you just go from there, don't you? And it's sort of one of those one takes. Yeah. I felt very secure with Clive as the other actor. I remember that, and I think that's a big thing if you're doing something like that for a first time with somebody. Yeah. I actually can't remember the month of the year that it was, but I know that when we did the scene where she's found at the end, it was absolutely freezing, yes. Sort of filming at night till 3 o'clock in the morning in the field. And what they'd done was I had to be found, and there was a guy that they told me was an actor who was doing the forensic, but he wasn't an actor, he was an extra, and he was sort of brushing the dirt off my bum, saying it was the best job he'd ever had, which was quite funny. And they put me under the ground and buried me under the ground with a pipe to breathe through. And because I'd never done a nude scene before, I drank far too much brandy, so the earth was hyperventilating. But we got the scene done. I remember it was freezing cold. Everyone was very pleased to go home that night, and the crew were lovely and supportive. I did see the film in the cinema, which would have been the first night for everybody. I had seen it before, and I have a feeling that that was in an editing suite and that Chris had shown me before. I think, like a lot of actresses, I'm very self-critical, so I really don't like watching myself on the screen. And so I always felt that I could have done better, but I don't think I'm alone, you know, as far as actors are concerned like that. So maybe it's something now that I could look back on from a distance, because I haven't seen the film for many years since it was brought out. So maybe if I looked at it now, then I'd be in a better position to evaluate that.
How do you feel kind of that we're here at the BFI?
It's quite strange, isn't it? I don't think you can, yeah, it's something that I didn't ever think would resurface, but here it is, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again.